going to... I don't know if they won't remember the theme tune, but they might well know it, because it sounds like an absolutely good one, and will certainly be prepared to stay up to all hours to watch the event, is Olympic gold medalist Tessa Sanderson, former javelin thrower who competed in 6 Olympic Games to glory, and former triple jumper and Olympic champion Jonathan Edwards to equal glory. Good to see both of you this morning.
Morning, both.
Neither of you can remember the 64 Tokyo theme tune, can you?
No, I don't.
No.
No, I don't.
I'll get my coat.
No.
All right, are we excited?
I was a 66 baby, so no.
I know you are.
There you go.
Yeah,
just missed it. Just missed it like me.
I was only a baby.
All right.
Yeah. Well, look, Jonathan, let's talk to you first of all. You must be thrilled, and I would have thought relieved, as all athletics fans are, that this is going ahead. Do we have any idea of what to expect from a definitely very unusual opening ceremony in Games?
I mean, look, opening ceremonies are always kind of, hidden under covers. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. But obviously, this will be different. It'll be an Olympics like no other. I'm glad it's going ahead. I mean, there's an interesting statistic that I think 70% of athletes who compete in the Olympics only do one game. So I think it was important to put the Games on to give those athletes who are ready this time round their opportunity. But it will be... I mean, I'm excited, I'm relieved, but I'm also intrigued to see what it will be like. And I think for a lot of athletes who perhaps had high hopes of performing well, they will struggle under the conditions and the sort of almost prison-like conditions that they have outside of the arena, and then having no fans. And although they're used to it, as an Olympic Games, you have an expectation that there will be a certain kind of atmosphere, and it will be very different. So I think the performances will be fascinating, and the way the Games play out, because I think more than any other sporting event, it thrives on the world coming together. That sense of not just what happens in the arena, but what happens citywide and countrywide, and that type of experience won't be there this time around.
I think you make a really good point about so many athletes at Olympic level only getting one Olympic Games to perform. And I think it would have just been shattering. Tessa, let's bring you in. Would have been shattering, wouldn't it? If after, I mean, many of them have been in hard training for 2 years solid. If the Japanese had decided, actually, no, we can't go ahead, it would have been... Can you imagine how you would have felt if that had happened to you when you were competing? Tessa?
I think I would have felt really, really strange going to an Olympic Games where there's no opening ceremony as such, because at the start, the opening ceremony makes you, it's that makes you buzz as you walk into that arena, and, you see the people all around and everything, you think, God, I'm actually here in the Games, but there's so many things that is going on, and you are right in the sense that athletes have been training for a very, very long time, like Jonathan said, and I am too relieved that the Games is going ahead, but there's so much sort of controversy that's going on about it that, it makes you wonder whether this Games is really going to be more or less a mind over matter Games. And if you're a first timer as such, it's going to be really hard to sort of come away with that light that we see, or Jonathan and I've seen when we've been to our first game, that, you know what, that was fantastic for a different cause, apart from a lot of the political things that's been happening.
Andy Murray was saying yesterday on the news that the lack of a stadium audience would possibly mean that people's performances wouldn't be quite as fast, quite as strong, or etc., as they might have been, because he said those roars from the crowd give you that extra lift. Do you think that we'll actually see fewer records broken this time because there's no one to cheer them on?
Well, I think there'll be a lot of surprises in these Games, and no doubt there might be world records, as such still, but I do think that it is going to be a lot of athletes have to really focus and go back to the times where it's just coach and me and no one else around, and I'm sure that all these athletes who are there, especially those who are medal potentials, would have gone through this phase, this sort of tunnel vision, that this is what the Games is going to be like, so let's try and, just work with it, but I'm sure there's going to be lots of surprises. There might be even some world records too.
Well, look, we want a safe, happy and successful Games, but we also want masses of Team GB gold, don't we? So who should we keep an eye out for on Team GB for success? Jonathan, you go.
Well, I think the big Yeah, I think the big superstar of the British team, and he maybe doesn't get the focus that he deserves, is Adam Peaty. I mean, what he's done in the breaststroke it exceeds what Usain Bolt has done in the 100 metres. I think he's absolutely outstanding, and he's nailed on, and I think he almost certainly will get a world record. And you've also got Jason Kenny, and Laura Kenny was Laura's trot. I mean, they have more gold medals between them than many nations. I think it'll be outstanding to see what they do and how well they perform. And then I think perhaps for me, and I'm sure Tessa would agree with this, Dina Asher-Smith is a real superstar, not just on the track but off the track. The attitude that she has, the thoughtful contribution she brings into the whole sporting world, as well as the stuff she says outside of sport. So to see how well Dina Asher-Smith does, and the women's 100 metres, I think will outstrip the men's 100 metres. That will be an outstanding event, and of course she goes in the 200 metres as well. Adam
Peaty will always be a star to me. He came into the Good Morning Britain studio and showed me that for the best part of 40 years I've been doing the breaststroke wrong. I was taught to put your arms really wide apart to pull the water back. At times I do the breaststroke actually in water, by the way. That's not the thing that I've been doing wrong all along.
And not in heels.
It's hard to recreate that in the studio. So, yeah, he'll always be a friend of mine. Dina Asher-Smith as well, Tessa, is so extraordinary. I mean, she is the fastest British female sprinter we've ever had and feels like a realistic chance of Olympic gold in your book?
I think Dina is going to be fantastic in these games because she's focused. She's, I've spoken to her a couple of times way before this, and the competition's going to be tough for her, but she's already showed that, she's really hungry. And at the start, it doesn't matter whether you're world record holder or whatever. These are the Olympic Games. It's totally different. When you get there, you're at the start, everybody's won. I think Dina is very, very ready. Her mind is ready. It's like I've been looking into her and think, this girl wants it. She wants it badly, and she's going to be running like a mad dog chasing her to make sure she gets this. She knows a lot of things on her back, but she's ready for that. But you see, there's other girls that she's got to really watch out for because, the American, as Jonathan will know, Gabby Thomas, she's run a 26 in the 200 especially, which I do think is probably going to be Dina's main event to go for. And this girl's run a 21.6, and that's flying. But Dina, as I say, it's not about that. She's going to be in there fighting for it. Again, Shelley-Ann Fraser, this are the girls as well, but she's tough.
She's also...
it's a tough thing.
She's also fighting for the right for the athletes to do what they think is right in terms of taking the knee. She's said she's warned the Olympic officials against punishing her or any other athlete who chooses to take the knee on the podium. Do you support her on that, Tess?
Well, I have to. If you're asking me, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I have to agree with that because the thing is, I think it's everybody's right to do as they wish. And we don't want the Olympic Games to be a political stand. But, there is a lot of things which is going on about Black Lives Matters. And, we do matter. And at the end of the day, Dina is saying that if any athletes want to take the knee, they should. And they should do, because it's their own right. It's freedom of speech. It's how they feel. And they'll have to, whatever, if there's any consequences, which there shouldn't be afterwards, then you know what? That's up to them. But just before I end on that story, Jonathan was talking about doing well. I think the ladies are going to bring home the main meal from the Olympic Games. I think the girls are going to be fantastic.
Jonathan, you might quibble with that. There's a lot of firsts about this Olympics. Mohammed Sabihi, the rower, is going to be the first Muslim UK flag bearer. Signals like that are important in athletics. As Tessa says, it's not a political event, but there are signals that are important to so many, aren't they?
Absolutely, Kate. And I think this idea that sport and politics should be separate is a nonsense. I mean, sport is very much part of life. It's a very powerful part of life. And so I think Mo carrying the flag is really important. Some of the things that Dina's saying is important. Just a little bit of background. There's something called Rule 50, which the International Olympic Committee have, which formally banned any kind of political protest within the field of play. But they've relaxed that, and they've said athletes can quietly make a stand, but not to do it on the podium. So I think for athletes there is an important distinction to be made perhaps between the podium moment, which I think the International Olympic Committee feels should be about celebrating the performance and not taking away perhaps from somebody else who's on the podium who doesn't want to make any kind of demonstration, and perhaps before a race. I mean, Formula One's quite interesting, isn't it? They have a moment before the race when they can take the knee or not take the knee, and then afterwards, you know, the celebrations, Lewis Hamilton, for example, doesn't make any particular demonstration there. So you can imagine Dina Asher-Smith just before her race taking the knee. Not that I want to say what she has to do, but maybe keeping it separate from the podium. So I think for athletes, they need to make a stand, but at the same time to do it in a sensitive way.
All right, well, thank you both very much indeed for your time. We cross our fingers for our athletes. We're sure they're going to do brilliantly. And thanks very much for joining us.
Full of gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy your day.
Had a great show.